Hello and welcome back to Happy Apple Core Homestead. Today we're going to talk about all things chamomile. We have this very large area here that we're going to harvest, not all of it, but some of it. And I want to encourage you that as you harvest it, it will continue to grow and bloom more. I'm going to harvest about what I think will fit in my dehydrator, and I'm loaning one of my other ones to my daughter. So I'm down one dehydrator. And if it looks like I'm scowling at you, it's because the sun is here, and that's mostly so that I'm recording my property and not the neighbor's property. So chamomile is good for calming, it's good for rest and sleep, it's good for digestion, and a couple different ways that we're going to preserve this is by dehydrating it and also making a tincture. We're going to start by just getting the flowers off of the stems. The flower is the part of the chamomile that you want to harvest. And we like to harvest them when the flowers are full. I'm going to bring this over. This is a full chamomile flower. I'm hoping I have this in the right position so you can see it. It's open, it's a brilliant yellow color, and you can really just clip them off with your fingers and put them in your handy dandy bucket. You can also use a pair of scissors or whatever, but they come off real nice. We've got a lot of bees and other pollinators in here right now as well, so just kind of be careful with your hands so you don't get stung or bitten by anything. And me personally, because I have so many, it's a really big bed. Lots of flowers are ready to harvest. I'm just going to start with the ones that are definitely done and ready, because the smaller ones will continue to mature. Like, I'm gonna pluck this one off just so you can see. If they look like this, I would go ahead and just leave them there to continue on their growing journey. Plenty of others for us to work with. If you're a chamomile fan like me, when you're harvesting, you're gonna love the smell. It's really so nice. If you've noticed that your flower is the petals have gone down, it's perfectly okay to harvest that one. Oh, this one has a spider on it. Check that out. Can you see that? Whoa, dudes, look at that spider. I'm gonna put him over here, he can live. And my hair is so long, kinda don't want him crawling up into my headspace. I mean, that happens pretty frequently anyway, but why do it on purpose? So yeah, you can wear gloves when you're doing this if you want to. I know that spiders kind of freak out a lot of people, and I don't wear gloves because I feel like I can, I like the tactile, being able to feel where the stems are. I feel like I can function a little bit faster without the gloves. But you can totally do this with gloves. And in fact, you don't even have to do it with your hands. I think I mentioned earlier, you can use a pair of garden scissors to just trim them right there, and that's acceptable as well. Really, the less damage you do to the plant, the better. Okay. So you can kind of see, oops. you can kind of see what I've done so far, and this is about, you know, the flowers that we have, which is, it's a good amount. It's not more than my dehydrator can take. So I'm just gonna grab a few more here. Here's another one I wanted to show you. This one is basically almost spent. The pollinators have come through and gleaned what they're going to from it. The petals are all down here. This is perfectly fine if you want to harvest this one. A few of these is not going to hurt your batch. Although most of the flowers are kind of on the top here, there are some in the middle, and you'll want to grab those as well. I'm not sure if it looks like I did a lot or not. We've really gleaned quite a few of the chamomile flowers, and I'm going to leave the rest for now. In a couple of days, this is even going to explode even bigger. There's tons and tons of new little flowers that are just getting ready to bloom, and we'll be able to start this process all over again in just a couple of days. I'm going to show you what we have here. This is a good amount of flower, and we're gonna take these inside and I will go over dehydrating. We'll talk about tinctures. We'll talk about some of the different ways to preserve chamomile in a way that you can use it for your health. So I'll see you in a little bit. Okay. As you saw in the last photo, we have clipped off the extra stems and we've been left with just the flowers, the petals, all the good things. I've rinsed these off and we're just gonna dry them off a bit. So I'm gonna just set them on a towel here. Try to get as many petals out as we can. We're just gonna kind of scrub these up a bit. So chamomile has a tendency to really hold on to its moisture. Over here we've got the Excalibur. If you've watched my videos before, you know all about it. Basically it's a 10 tray, and yeah, I don't know what else to tell you about it. It's amazing. So we're just kind of getting some of this moisture out. Obviously, the goal of putting it in the dehydrator is it's going to suck all the moisture out of these flowers. And so we've done this before, and I really want to encourage you to not give up. Okay, I know that harvesting and preserving chamomile can be a time-consuming and arduous process, but it is so worth it for the health benefits. So now that we've just kind of patted it dry, we're gonna put it on the shelf. I know this is gonna be a repeat for a lot of you, but it has a mesh on the top, and we're just gonna go ahead and sprinkle these on here. There's like water right there. Anyway, sprinkle these on here. I'm gonna give them even more airflow than I normally would, just because it seems to take forever. Not really. I'm exaggerating. It takes a long time for the chamomile to dry. I'm gonna fill up all of these trays and get right back to you. Now that I've got most of the flowers on a couple of trays here, I'm gonna take out the 2 trays that we don't need. I don't think you have to do this, I just do. And I'm actually gonna give it a little bit more space since I know that we're only putting in 1 more tray. And I wanna get as many of these beautiful flower parts onto the tray as possible. I'm gathering them all together. This is the one nice thing about, you know, perhaps using some kind of a towel or parchment paper or whatever, you know, just something to hold them all together. All right, now that we've got all of those on there beautifully, I'm just gonna spread them apart so they have lots of, you know, little bits of spaces for the air to circulate around them. And again, I'm giving it just a lot of extra space. What if I put this one down a little bit? All right, that looks fairly even. I'm gonna get this lid on. Now, you may notice that there's a gap here. It might look like the lid is a little bit funky. That's perfectly normal. It needs to intake air and have the air come out. So this is fine. It's the way it's designed, perfectly normal. And so I'm just taking a look at my machine. If you watched my last video on, what was it, time, I put the temperature at 100 degrees. Because I'm using the chamomile for medicinal purposes, I'm gonna put it on the lowest setting possible, and I'm just gonna let it go until it's completely dry. That will help retain the medicinal properties of the flower. And as I'm looking at that, it is about 95 to, I guess 135 degrees, kind of is the herb setting for the Excalibur. I'm gonna set it at the lower end, kind of about 95 to 100 degrees. So I guess it's the same as my last video. Ah! I'm gonna answer this call. I'm gonna plug this in, and I will see you back, and we'll check on this in about 24 hours, and I will let you know just how long it takes to get these beautiful flowers dry. Okay, bye. Hi everybody, welcome back. We have dried tons of chamomile over the last couple of weeks, and it's all ready to go. We can use these in teas, or like today, we're gonna make a tincture. I am going to save this jar for teas, so I'll set that aside. And we have all of these that we can use, but we're only going to fill this jar halfway with the dried chamomile. And I think I said earlier I was going to tell you how long it takes to do one batch in the dehydrator. So it did take 24 hours for the chamomile to get to just that perfect, like, crispy dryness. Not crispy. Here, I'll just show you. Powdery, that's the word I'm looking for. So, as you can see, when you squeeze it, it just turns into powder. So that's perfect. Because chamomile has a tendency to really quickly reabsorb atmospheric moisture, I am using desiccant package in each one of these jars. And this one too. I don't do that with the herbs. You know, we have some organic dried basil from the garden from last year here, and it's not necessary to use the desiccant in these smaller jars for those types of, culinary herbs. But for the chamomile, I found that it lasts quite a bit longer if we use them. So we'll just want to make sure that when we transfer it in here, that we do not get the desiccant package in here. This jar has been cleaned and sterilized. I'm using a plastic leak-proof lid. This one is made by Ball. You can use whichever one you want. You can actually use the lid and the ring that come with the jar, and I think a lot of people tend to put some kind of a barrier in between the liquid herb mixture and the metal of the lid so that there's no kind of corrosion that happens. We're not going to do that today because we are using this plastic lid. All right, let's get started. We are making a chamomile tincture, which is quite a bit stronger than just a tea. We're going to fill this halfway first, and then we'll go to the next step. Okay, here we are, about half full. I'm using 100 proof vodka, and some people use Everclear. I don't feel like we need that high of octane for such a gentle flower. We're going to go ahead and use this. We're going to fill it all the way to the top. The reason why we're only leaving half of the chamomile, we're not filling it to the top, is because this is going to expand quite a bit. All right, one bottle down. 1 second. Okay, and here we go again. And you want to fill this all the way to the top. Now, believe it or not, I do have another bottle of this, but we're not going to fill it any further. The liquid line is up to here. That's good enough for me. Put our lid on nice and tight. Give it a shake. So you'll notice when you shake it, you can see what that looks like there. And you want the flour to be completely covered, which it is, but it's floating a little bit, which is fine. On the top of my lid here, I have it's a dissolvable label, because we're only going to use this label for a little bit. It's a dissolvable label so that I can just wash this off. It washes right off in water, super easy. And what it tells me is, what do I have in here? So I have 50% of the jar with dried chamomile, and then I have 50% of the jar with 100 proof vodka. And the date. It's important that we put the date on here because we are only going to leave this in the jar for 4 to 6 weeks. Knowing me, I'm probably going to leave it in the jar for 6 weeks. That's no problem. It's going to extract all of the wonderful goodness of this plant so that we can actually use it for medicine. Now that we have our chamomile and our vodka all in the jar, we've got a label on here, it's got the date on here. We're gonna stick it in the pantry, shake it up once a day or at least twice a week, 2-3 times a week. We're gonna leave it in there for 6 weeks. After the 6 weeks has been completed, we've been doing our shaking once, twice a week or every day if you can. Make sure that lid is on tight, right? We're going to take a cheesecloth and we're gonna strain out the medicinal tincture, and we're gonna put them into small amber colored jars with droppers on them. And we're gonna talk about that more in the next video. And I will link that to this one once it's up. And also when that one comes online, I'll link this video to that one so that there can be like a full picture of, what do we do with chamomile and why? Chamomile tincture, I think I might have mentioned this earlier, is considerably stronger than just a plain chamomile tea. So if you're feeling very poorly and you don't really have, the constitution for drinking a cup of tea, you can put just a few droppers under your tongue and have a very similar effect as to drinking a whole cup of chamomile tea. This is not suitable for children. It has alcohol in it. There are ways to extract all of the medicinal properties using apple cider vinegar or glycerin. Those are not things I'm going to cover today, but they are things that you can search out on your own if you have a colicky baby or whatnot. So chamomile tincture, what's it good for? It's good for insomnia, sleep disorders, of which I suffer from both. I am excited to start using it for that purpose. I have not used it for sleep apnea yet because I am dealing with learning how to use a CPAP machine. So any of you guys with insomnia out there probably understand my pain. I'm excited to see if this is going to revolutionize my life. In addition to aiding in sleep disorders, it's also beneficial for all different kinds of skin ailments, and also really good for digestion in the gut. So if you're having some upset stomach or some indigestion, if you have an ulcer perhaps, or even menstrual cramps, chamomile tincture is really good for those things. We'll go over more of the tincture uses and dosages in the next video when we strain this out and get it into their jars. This is going to be shelf stable. And when I mentioned before that you can do the apple cider vinegar or glycerin extraction, those are not going to be as shelf stable as using it with alcohol. So just kind of consider, are you using this for children or adults, and how long do you want it to last, and how fast will you go through it? Just some things to think about as you are building up your herbal cabinet. Thank you so much for watching my video. I'm gonna go stick this in the pantry, and I'm gonna see you back in a couple of months when we strain this and we talk more, you and I, about why are we using chamomile as medicine, what's it good for, what are the dosages, things like that. So stay tuned for that video, and in the meantime, happy gardening. Bye everybody!